Imagine you are cleaning out an old, dusty shed in the countryside. It is a mundane weekend chore, the kind of task you've done a dozen times. You sweep the floor, shift some old cardboard boxes, and breathe in the stale, heavy air. You don't see the threat. It isn't a predator with teeth or a visible toxin you can smell. It is a microscopic strand of rRNA wrapped in a protein shell, floating on a speck of dust. In that single breath, you've just invited the Hantavirus into your system. Most people think of global killers as things that travel on international flights or thrive in the humid, crowded markets of megacities. But the Hantavirus operates on a different logic. It is a zoonotic disease, a pathogen that successfully jumps the species barrier from animals to humans. Specifically, it hides within certain species of rodents, the deer mouse, the cotton rat, and the white-footed mouse. These animals carry the virus for life, but they never show symptoms. They are the perfect silent reservoirs. In the world of biological risk, these rodents are the primary source of a hidden contagion that remains dormant until the moment of contact. The transmission mechanism is deceptively simple and dangerously effective. When rodent urine, droppings or saliva dry, the virus becomes aerosolized. It hitches a ride on microscopic dust particles that can stay suspended in the air for hours. When you disturb that dust by sweeping, vacuuming, or moving old furniture, you create a cloud of exposure. This isn't just a bad seasonal flu. This is a high-stakes gamble with a mortality rate that would make even the most aggressive hedge fund manager sweat. In many recorded outbreaks, the death rate for the pulmonary strain is staggering, often hovering around 38 to 40%. To understand why this matters, we have to look at the hidden mechanism of how it attacks. In the early 1990s, a sudden outbreak in the American Southwest left doctors baffled. Healthy young adults were arriving at hospitals and dying within 24 hours. Their lungs were filling with fluid, yet they had no history of heart or lung disease. This became known as Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS. The irony is that the virus itself doesn't actually destroy your tissue. Your own immune system is the one that pulls the trigger. When the virus enters your body, it targets the endothelium, the delicate lining of your blood vessels. Your body detects an intruder it doesn't recognize and triggers a massive, uncoordinated counterattack known as a cytokine storm. It's like a central bank raising interest rates to 500% to stop a minor inflation. It destroys the entire economy to kill the problem. Your blood vessels become leaky. Instead of carrying oxygen-rich blood, your lungs begin to fill with your own plasma. You aren't being killed by a germ. You are effectively drowning from the inside out because your immune response overcompensated. The incubation period is the most deceptive part of this timeline. It can last anywhere from 1 to 8 weeks. During this window, the virus is quietly replicating, and you feel completely fine. Then, the prodromal phase hits. Fatigue, fever, and muscle aches. At this stage, it looks like any other common infection. But the math is unforgiving. Once the phase of respiratory distress begins, the clinical progression is lightning fast. In the world of epidemiology, we call this a low-frequency, high-consequence event. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the public health system is forced into a reactive, desperate defense. As of today, there is no specific vaccine, no specialized antiviral treatment, and no magic pill. The only system we have to fight back is supportive care. Intensive care units, high-flow oxygen, and ventilators, hoping the patient's body can stabilize before the fluid takes over. It is a race against a biological clock that started ticking the moment you disturbed that dust.
If the first part of the story is about the individual breach, the second part is about the environment and the global risk. Why is hantavirus becoming a recurring topic of concern for global health experts right now? It comes down to a fundamental shift in the ecological balance of our planet. We often see hype cycles on the internet. A single case of hantavirus is reported in a rural province, and social media erupts with fears of a new pandemic. But here is the reality check: hantavirus is generally not spread via human-to-human transmission. If you are standing in a hospital room next to an infected person, you are likely safe. The pathogen almost always requires that rodent bridge to reach a human host. This is a localized threat, but it has a global presence. The uncomfortable math lies in how we are changing the landscape. As urban sprawl expands into previously wild areas, the human-rodent interface becomes tighter and more frequent. When we build luxury suburbs in forests or expand industrial agriculture into deep grasslands, we are essentially moving into the virus's home office. We are increasing the frequency of contact with these reservoirs. In economic terms, we are increasing our leverage against a high-risk asset without having the insurance to cover a loss. Furthermore, climate change acts as a massive volatility multiplier for this entire system. Scientists have observed a pattern. Heavy rainfall following a long period of drought leads to a boom in vegetation. More seeds and insects mean a population explosion of rodents. More rodents mean a significantly higher viral load in the environment. This is not a theory, it is a documented statistical correlation. We are seeing emerging infectious diseases thrive in the cracks of our changing ecosystem, taking advantage of the weather-driven spikes in animal populations. We must also look at the second version of the virus found mostly across Europe and Asia, hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome or HFRS. Instead of drowning the lungs, this strain attacks the kidneys and causes internal bleeding. While the fatality rate for this version is lower than the lung-based version, the morbidity, the long-term, permanent damage to the body, is a massive, invisible burden on healthcare infrastructure. It turns a temporary infection into a lifelong medical debt for the survivor. So, what is the hidden mechanism for prevention? It isn't a high-tech lab solution. It's biosafety and vector control. It's the boring, unglamorous work of sealing buildings, managing waste to keep rodents away, and using disinfectants like bleach to neutralize the virus on surfaces. In the world of health, this is the equivalent of defensive investing. It isn't exciting, it doesn't make headlines, but it prevents a total systemic collapse. In the world of finance, we talk about black swan events, rare, unpredictable occurrences that have an extreme impact. Hantavirus is a biological black swan. It isn't a threat to the entire species like an airborne respiratory virus might be, but for the individual who crosses its path, the risk profile is catastrophic. It is a reminder that the most dangerous threats are often the ones we stop looking for. The bigger implication is that we can no longer view human health in isolation. This leads us to the One Health concept, the idea that animal health, environmental health, and human health are all on the same balance sheet. If the environment is in debt, or if animal populations are stressed, the human population eventually pays the interest in the form of a pathogen spillover. We spend billions of dollars looking for the next big one in high-tech containment labs, yet the real threat might be waiting in a pile of wood in your backyard, a mountain cabin, or a storage unit you haven't opened in years. We've built a global civilization that is incredibly efficient at moving goods and people, but we remain remarkably vulnerable to the ancient, messy, and unpredictable cycles of the natural world. As we continue to push the boundaries of where we live and how we interact with the wild, we have to ask ourselves, are we prepared for the price of this expansion? Or are we just waiting for the next time we breathe in the wrong kind of dust? The virus doesn't care about our borders, our political systems, or our economies. It simply waits for an opening. And in a world that is constantly moving, those openings are becoming more frequent. The question isn't whether the virus is dangerous, the data has already proven that. The question is, are we willing to respect the boundaries that keep these pathogens in the wild, or will we continue